Okay, so we look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 edition at 21:9. Sorry I never got a video up about the beta, but finally I've gotten time to cover the latest release in the classic series. And finally, it's an entry that actually looks like I'll keep playing it throughout the year and not drop it after a week or two. Definitely wasn't expecting this. So anyway, let's have a look at the ultra-wide support. One thing that is undeniable, the Call of Duty series has thankfully turned around from being one of the worst supported PC games in history to some of the best. Well, with some notable exceptions, but we'll get to that. So there is full ultra-wide support, including, I should add, 32:9 support in gameplay, with no extreme stretching or cropping or other glitchy issues. The HUD scales to the sides of the screen and can be shifted into a good few positions you prefer. It doesn't seem to be able to go really past 16:9, and even then I'm not quite sure if it's even reaching 16:9 properly, but yeah, for the most part you can at least change it a little bit. I should note, by the way, that for 3440x1440 you need to set the aspect ratio to auto. Setting it to 21:9 will result in black bars on the sides because it uses the aspect ratio of 2560x1080. Screen effects like being hit and views like controlling kill streaks all work fine at 21:9 as well. I did find that after moving your HUD from 21:9 inwards, it caused the rare damage box to also scale inwards to the same narrower width, but this only really applies to this one element. The rest of the HUD seems to work correctly. The main menu kind of supports 21:9, fading to black at about 18:9, and this applies to most menus, something that's not to complain about and that I wish more games would do. I don't love having the menu items spread completely out to the sides of the screen, but I also prefer that over just having sharp black bars next to 16:9 content, so why more games don't just use this easy solution of fading to black, I don't know. This solution is also how the loading screens generally work. There are a few places, like some other loading screens, where the sides cut off abruptly to black, but for the most part they aren't the norm. And finally, cutscenes are ultra-wide, making use of pretty much all the space available, which is beautiful, and some of the cutscenes are really jaw-dropping. Performance-wise, well, this has been a very bumpy start. So there have been a ton of stuttering issues, network lag issues, random crashes, and whole PC system freezing issues. However, most of these have been rectified in the last patch, so on the whole, things are much better. But man, has it been bad. My whole system would just crank to a halt at 100% CPU usage at random moments, and it would take ages to force close the game. Now, some issues still remain, they just don't happen as frequently. That said, there is still the titanically stupid issue of the shaders installation thing that I can't work out what it's doing, requesting to have you wait literally 10 minutes or longer sometimes to load before you can properly continue, or you can skip it and just play, but it warns you of probable performance issues, which, that said, don't seem to materialize. I don't care what is going on here, I just want it fixed. Get rid of it and sort this out. There is zero reason to have this happen every time you start the game. Now this all aside, when the game actually works properly, you should be able to run it decently. On a GTX 1080 Ti at 3440x1440, I was able to maintain over 60 FPS at all times, with it usually going much higher into the 80s. But this is all down to the moment. So normal multiplayer maps are totally fine to run, and like I said, when glitchy bugs are put aside, you should have no trouble keeping your FPS very high throughout all scenarios here. But this isn't true for the Ground War game mode, where it expands everything into a much larger single map. This runs significantly worse, something I thought that they would have been able to fix from the beta, but they didn't manage to completely sort. So you'll definitely find you'll want to drop your graphics settings a notch or two across the board just to keep that FPS high, because here it really fluctuates with the view you have. Because you can have moments where you look across the battlefield and it really struggles to render everything going on. I think the devs need to have a chat with the Battlefield guys about some engine optimization ideas. Now, this all said, I'm happy to say that there are a good number of graphics settings to choose from, and that you can affect performance significantly by changing these options. So the power to scale the game's performance is there, and when the game is running as best as it can be very pretty. General PC support wise, it was also good to find that surround sound support made the final version, which is only something of note because it wasn't there in the beta when I played it. And there is full controller and mouse and keyboard support, with everything having the option to be rebound how you like it. The best thing here, of course, being that there is cross-platform play, and this is a game changer. PC has always been the best platform for versatility, and as many of you on the channel know, I've long loved controller use over mouse and keyboard, and my rule generally has always been that I'll play only multiplayer first-person shooters with a mouse and keyboard. The rest I like to lean back and play with a controller. And it's fantastic, and whilst I really like using a mouse and keyboard for the few games I do, like Battlefield or Rainbow Six, I often find I would still prefer to use a controller. Siege is probably the only game where I always want to use a mouse and keyboard over a controller. But anyway, it is always a disadvantage to use a controller in multiplayer, especially for first-person shooters when paired with a mouse and keyboard opponent. You just don't have a chance. And COD has finally fixed this issue for me. Yes, GTA did it years ago, and there have been a smattering of other titles that support having controller-only matches, and yes, you can still play with your controller against mouse and keyboard people if you wanted to, but you'll just have to be extremely good. But what is really key here, and really affect the long-term life of this game, is the fact that you can play with Xbox and PlayStation players as well, which gives the game a massively longer life in terms of player community, as we can just all play together. I'll always champion this feature. Whatever the game, having all players on the same multiplayer servers together is the best thing ever. It feels so good not to have everyone divided. This really can't be said enough. So as for actual gameplay, this is great fun. The normal core gameplay modes feel totally as expected, even with the removal of the 3-lane system design. Guns feel as exceptional as ever, and sound design really is just superb. I can't rate the ground war mode though, especially because of the fact that there is only one map for this mode. How they couldn't have found the money and time to make 1 or 2 more maps is just a lie. It'll all be released in future DLC, I'm sure. Aside from the tanking frame rate, it just isn't really why I play COD. It's exactly what Battlefield excels at, and so I feel I best just stick to the tight maps. I do wish though that gun game was back. It's one game mode that I'm really missing, but having the night mode maps is a really solid introduction. I've been properly enjoying this new take on it, especially with a slight change to aiming in the dark. Really, if you played COD before and haven't played one in a while, I would say this is looking like a great choice to pick up. There is a ton of customization and progression to be had in multiplayer, and happily I've had no run-ins with microtransactions for now. So as long as it stays that way, not that the pessimistic side of my brain believes it will, but yeah, while it lasts, it's really nice to not be blasted with buy this with real money ads. The campaign is really good fun. I've always rated them as great movie-style joyrides, great set pieces, a fun story, it's just a good time. Yes, it's no Red Dead deep experience, but not everything needs to be. Definitely no slagging off here. The Spec Ops Mode though is my favourite side piece to standard multiplayer. It's absolutely damn difficult. Very large open areas to fight in, and it works very well with other players. It's just a shame that there's no split screen. So this recommendation said, it does require the Battle.net launcher, which is annoying not having it on Steam, and it's expensive for a predominantly multiplayer only title. So yeah, that's another call you'll have to make on your own. And the download size is a crazy 100+ gig size, which is very large, and you'll genuinely need to check if you have the space, especially if you're on a laptop. Also, I'm pretty sure this requires you to have an internet connection at all times to play, which is bloody unacceptable if it's true. All in all though, I've loved this and really believe I will continue to play the hell out of it for a while to come. I'm happy to say that COD seems to be back in my life, and I can really recommend you give it a shot. I'm going to give it a WAF score of 4 as well. On the whole, it really is a very well supported ultra-wide title. So I hope that gives you some information how the game runs at 21x9. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe for future info. For any games at 21x9, head over to my channel, the WAF website. Hopefully I've covered it. If I haven't, then leave a comment down below and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to support the channel, links to my Patreon page in the description and Amazon affiliate links there too. See you later.